What do you believe is 100% true but can't prove? Story 1. Not getting enough sleep is the millennial fat slathered burger. In a few decades, there will be campaigns to get more sleep just like there is with non-smoking and healthy eating, and we will have studies on the lifespans of people who don't get enough sleep. Edit. To everyone going, no crap, Sherlock, if it were that obvious and commonly known, it wouldn't be so damn common to boast about how little sleep you get. Nobody boasts about how many cigars they smoke because they know that crap is goddamn toxic. But even people who know that they should sleep better underestimate the havoc they are doing to their body and the potential long-term damage this is doing to them. And they won't find out until it's already there, much like a few generations ago, people didn't appreciate the toxicity of smoking until they already had cancer. My grandmother quit smoking decades ago and now has lung cancer. If you barely get any sleep in your teens but sleep well in your 20s onwards, how much damage have you already done? Several people have already pointed out that extensive research has already been done on this. Great! So now we have to build public awareness and make this knowledge as common as the knowledge of the damage smoking can do. Make staying up late to be a workaholic as unappealing as smoking a pack a day, and just as uncool rather than something to crow about. For those who want to learn more, many commenters have suggested Matthew Walker. There were some stretches of time in my 20s where I worked weird midnight shifts, and holy crap did I ever feel miserable not getting enough sleep. Now I'm usually asleep around 10 and awake around 5:30, and damn do I feel great most days. Get good sleep, folks. You might have fewer hours in the day, but the hours you do have will be that much better. Story 2. Free will doesn't actually exist. It's an illusion based on the unidirectional nature of causality. We can know the past, but only approximately predict the future. Why did you read this post? Because you wanted to. Why did you want to? Because you have a predisposed interest in the subject matter. Why do you have a predisposed interest in the subject matter? Because the last time you read things on here, they made you happy. Why do you like being happy? Because it feels good. Why does being happy feel good? Brain chemistry. Why brain chemistry? That's just how the universe evolved. This far down, you have no control over it. If your brain chemistry was just slightly different, say you were raised in a different environment or a mutation occurred that made reading less interesting for you, then you wouldn't have read this comment. But you did read it. By the anthropic principle, the universe must have evolved to such a state that you end up reading this post, and since there's nothing to suggest the universe will change its course of evolution anytime soon, there's also nothing suggesting you won't continue reading more posts. You don't actually have a choice in anything you do. You were going to do it before you even realized. Honestly, I've heard this argument before, and it isn't awful. However, I would encourage reading more into the philosophy of these things, maybe some Schopenhauer or something, and learn a little more about determination, free will, and all that. There's no way I can cover it all in one of my little comments, but I believe in free will. If you disagree, you are free to voice your opinions in the comments. Story 3. Around 12 to 13,000 years ago, there was a global catastrophe due to a large-scale impact on the Earth's surface that reset human civilization back to a Stone Age era of technology. Did not believe this for the longest time, but the evidence is overwhelming. Everywhere from Egypt to Peru, there are megalithic structures that share the exact same tool, marks, and building techniques. Laser cutting precision, perfect drill holes through solid granite, which is nearly impossible with suggested copper tools of modern archaeology. Stone walls that are built with no mortar and instead with interlocking stone, 90-degree angles cut, machined to 1/10,000th of an inch, only capable nowadays with computers and modern machining. There was a global advanced civilization before us that was erased over time. The only remnants of this civilization are the stone structures they left behind that are over-engineered to a level that, without computers and machines, exceeds modern capability. Overall, I highly recommend looking into this. It's fascinating. Also, there are others who do a much better job at explaining this than I do. Brian Forrester is a great source. Look him up on YouTube. Story 4. I'm Romanian, and I'm not sure if it's the culture or the place I grew up in, but whenever you lose something and are panicking to find it, there's a simple way to always find it. Just go get a mug and visualize a smaller version of the object you're looking for. I do it so it's kind of spinning like a video game. After seeing it in the can, flip over the can on the table and leave the object covered by the flipped mug on the table. Stop looking for the object. You will find it in your hands in less than 2 days, no matter what. If it's something like your keys or wallet or socks or headphones, you will 100% come across them, maybe even minutes after doing it, so long as you just avoid thinking of it. I'm not superstitious at all, and I understand that this can be explained just by the way we interact with things around us in our day-to-day lives, but after growing up with this and it never faltering even on big things, I simply feel better off pleading ignorance and understanding that some things are just going to be how they are, and putting time into thinking about them is a waste of my time. Also, my mom is a luck magnet and a telepath and a wizard, but that's a story for another day. Came in real hard at the end there with some major claims that I would like not another day. I would like them today, please, because that's a lot more interesting. Your mom is a wizard. Tell us more. Story 5. Women's clothing does not typically have pockets in order to increase handbag sales. When a woman finds any item of clothing with decent pockets, especially dresses, my God, they will let you know. I once spent a whole day looking for a pair of work pants that would simply hold my phone and a box cutter. I went to the largest shopping mall in my state, could not find anything for less than 100 Australian dollars. My work is pretty taxing on clothing, so I'm not spending that kind of money on something that's just going to fall apart. Went away empty-handed. Whenever I talk about this, the response is, why not get a bag? A, it doesn't fit in with my work, and B, friggin' buy an extra product when I shouldn't have to? I've now switched to men's clothing and have pants that are just as slim-fitting but have functional pockets. I now have no trouble finding cheap pants that not only fit, I am not curvy and have a boyish build, most XX folks cannot do this, but have pockets that fit everything I need. Frick the pocket triarchy. Story 6. For a brief window of time following the Second World War, the United States could have taken over the world. Every other industrialized economy in the world was in ruins or exhausted from fighting. We were the only nation in the world that knew how to construct the atomic bomb. If the advantage had been pressed and the bomb used without restraint, the U.S. might have been able to overwhelm the Soviet Union before it developed nuclear capabilities of its own. The results would have been a dystopian nightmare worse than anything the Nazis could have imagined. A single nuclear weapons state enforcing a global hegemony through the threat of nuclear war. All of this is wild, brain-dead speculation, of course. Story 7. Ghosts, spirits, entities, phantoms, presences, whatever you want to call it/them. They say seeing is believing, and in this case, it's absolutely true. Very few things, if anything at all, compares to the feeling of knowing something else exists and having not only proof, but this whole new level of fear that comes with life itself that very few people can relate to you about. Seeing things that shouldn't be is frightening enough, but imagine being alone in that, no one else but a dog as witness. You can talk to him, but he won't reply. You can't convince yourself you were just tricked, sick, crazy. It was real, whatever it was, and there's no one to explain how or why. I mean, there are people who explain how or why, typically by explaining tricks of the human mind, infrasound, and so on. As a skeptic, I tend to side with those things, but I also try to keep my mind open to possibilities. However, a lot of the time you can't fully prove things one way or another, so neither side can truly seem to convince the other. And oftentimes, evidence believers claim is irrefutable is pretty futable. Story 8. Financial systems are involved in a conspiracy to remove financial education from public schools. This is in order to keep young people financially illiterate and more susceptible to incurring debt. They influence governments to remove or fail to include mandatory financial learning from standard curricula. Seriously, I never learned anything about the financial reality that I would face as a citizen of my country. I did a brief 3-month elective rotation at age 14, learning how to write a budget sheet and how businesses worked, but nothing about my personal financial rights and responsibilities. Story 9. Tiger Woods lifted too many weights, got huge and buff, and that's why the last decade of his career suffered and why he had back problems in the first place. The lack of flexibility and tightening of his back muscles affected his swing to the point where control became a major issue. All this because he was addicted to pee more than golf and preferred to look at the stud in the bedroom over anything else. Nowadays, he has tried hard to rebound, lost a lot of his body mass, looks leaner, and is suddenly winning again. It's obvious, but no one talks about it. Intercourse addiction played into his self-image, which impacted his physical ability to perform on a professional level for the good part of a decade. I didn't know people were still this interested in Tiger Woods, but for the rest of us who don't follow golf, this seems pretty legit, I guess. I have no idea. Story 10. I've waited a long time to be asked this exact question. 1. Skittles are the same flavor. 2. Quail can only fly like 20 feet at a time. They can't hold sustained flight. 3. When Mormons get married, they are issued a secret intercourse how-to pamphlet because they've had such sheltered lives up until then. Nobody can convince me otherwise. Story 11. There's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world known as the Pentaverate: the Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went teats up, who run everything in the world, including the newspapers, and meet triannually in a secret country mansion in Colorado known as the Meadows. Oh, I hate the Colonel, and his wee beady eyes, that smug look on his face. Oh, you're gonna buy me chicken. He put an addictive chemical in his chicken that makes you crave it fortnightly. Story 12. 30 years ago or so, it was the oil companies behind Save the Trees to get everybody to use more plastic. Plastic bags, plastic straws, all sorts of stuff. Nobody was cutting down the rainforest to make paper grocery bags. Trees, paper trees especially, are a crop like any other. Save the wheat, don't eat bread. Signed, Corn Farmers. That'd be weird, right? These are the kind of conspiracy theories I'm here for. I'm not even going to say any of them are so far out there that they are wrong. I have no idea, but they sure are interesting. Story 13. That we are going to develop an artificial superintelligence at some point within the next 50 years, and this will be the single most significant invention in the history of mankind. Also, it might not be a good thing for the vast majority of the population. It will be somewhere on the scale of very, very bad to very, very good. I don't think we will know where this will be on this scale until we have invented it. Story 14. That humans have to be by some degree psychic or able to tell the future somehow. Think about it. How many times have you thought of a song in your head right before it comes on the radio? Or had a topic in mind and came across other people discussing it? Or thought of something at the same time as someone else? That stuff happens too often for it just to be a chance. Or it just seems like it happens so often because we only remember all the times that it does happen, and of course don't remember the overwhelming times where it doesn't, because they are unremarkable. Doesn't disprove you, but food for thought. Story 15. I've noticed a few overpriced gas stations in LA, and at first I thought it was because they were off the highway or something and catching people who weren't locals and didn't know any better. But then I noticed they're next to police stations, and I've completely convinced myself that they jack up the price because, I assume, the gas money to fill up the police fleet comes from the government and not individual officers, so nobody cares. Story 16. I believe bad luck exists to steer us in the right direction. For example, turning around because I've forgotten my wallet to find I've left the front door open. That's why I'm not so upset about having to cancel a recent vacation. I had vehicle breakdowns one after another on a road trip. Had to cancel after only 200 miles and go home. Maybe something horrible would have happened out in the desert if I'd continued. Story 17. That the vacuum shop down the street is a money laundering operation. Never a customer in the store, no new inventory since what looks like the late 90s to early aughts, and yet they've been open for business since the 1950s. A specialized vacuum shop could never survive in this Walmart era. There's just no way. Also, mattress firm? Same deal. I just know it. Story 18. Elf on the Shelf, the elf doll that supposedly watches children and reports back to Santa that parents love so much, is actually a subversive program by government or maybe corporate interest to desensitize children to being under constant surveillance so they won't question it as adults. No, I don't believe there are any cameras or mics in the actual doll. The point of it is to implant the idea into children's heads when they are young that someone is always watching them. I mean, that feels very much like an idea a parent would just want to plant to make their kids behave, because kids are monsters and raising them is hard as hell and you'll take any advantage you can get. Story 19. That in elementary school, on the day when there was a substitute teacher, Gibran stole all my shiny football stickers from my drawer. The subteacher didn't know any of the kids, and when the real teacher came back a few days later, they said there was nothing they could do as they weren't there. Gibran mysteriously had a lot more football stickers to trade at lunchtime. Frick you, Gibran. Story 20. If there are people who will pick their nose and eat their boogers, there are people who will wipe their butts and lick their poop. I guarantee it. We just can't spot these sickos because doing the number 2 is always done in private, but they are out there. I'm damn certain of it. I hate this. I hate it so much. Story 21. The picture books were definitely spelled as the Berenstain Bears with an E. Never was it spelled the Berenstain Bears with an A. My brother-in-law is absolutely doing H and hiding it from his entire family and girlfriend. Story 22. That Brooks Brothers in the airport is a money laundering operation. I fly 2 to 3 times a month, and I almost never see any customers in those places at all. But somehow they manage to maintain prime airport storefronts. I am 99% convinced that they only exist to launder money. Story 23. That my generation, I'm 25 years old, will bear witness to a cataclysmic event that dramatically reconstructs the geopolitical system and society as we know it. I'm talking about an event on par with the Great Depression or World War II, perhaps even the fall of Rome or the plague. I feel it is just about time for the wave to crash. Story 24. Time travel is real, but it isn't what we think. That's just our name for a concept our limited human brains can't understand. That vaping is unhealthy. That crap just can't be good for your lungs. Well, that was an interesting combination. Time travel and vaping. I mean, yeah, vaping isn't good for you. Are some of you convincing yourselves it is? If so, allow me to sell you some cigarettes in the 30s. Story 25. Governments collude all the time and pretend to be shocked if found out. There is a somewhat universal, not every country participates, ruling class that has chopped up the whole world like Europe did Africa, and they work together to keep the structure intact. Story 26. Whoever started the flat earth conspiracy theory doesn't actually believe it. They did it as a massive troll for their own amusement of watching dumb people dedicate themselves to something so stupid. Story 27. James Bond isn't a singular man, but an alias given to whomever assumes the role in MI5. That's the only thing that could explain him spanning multiple decades and not progressing in age. Story 28. Tom Cruise is a great actor that seems like a decent person despite being a Scientologist, so the obvious conclusion is that he's using his acting skills to go undercover and attempting to dismantle Scientology from the inside. Story 29. Late to the party, but I believe that infants, toddlers, and young children have emotions, thoughts, and feelings just as rich and complex as adults, if not more so due to the magnitude of each new discovery. Story 30. That imaginary friends are real and there is some kind of secret society somewhere. I still vividly remember my imaginary friend, and it kind of creeps me out that I can recall moments of him being very tangible and not very imaginary. Human memories are just the trickiest little devils. Between the fallibility of human memory and the power of false memories, I've got to tell you, be careful with just how much you let yourself trust your memories. Story 31. That a car's combination meter is also a secret timer that, when its clock runs out, starts messing with the electrical systems, turning on warning lights and sending you back to the dealer for expensive diagnostics and unnecessary replacement parts. Story 32. There's only one property brother. They edit the other one in, and that's why you see them together so little. They do minor changes to make you think they don't look alike, but I know there's only one. You can't fool me, HGTV and TLC. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 33. If we were able to zoom in far enough at a microscopic level, quarks and stuff are self-contained universes. Likewise, if we were to zoom out, our universe is just a quark in some grander scheme. Story 34. Talent shows on TV plant the people who they audition, and the judges are cued to ask questions based on their stories. Kennedy shot first. I'm not going to touch that Kennedy joke, but I will say talent in reality shows are often very scripted, edited, and even rigged. You are right. This crap has been revealed enough times that, yeah, I feel like you can feel secure in your correctness. Story 35. That the Nutella recipe has changed markedly over the last 10 to 15 years, and not just the most recent, highly publicized change. I now found the texture in particular to be almost gross, whereas I used to enjoy guzzling it in large quantities. You get older and tastes change. Little kid me loved Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Adult me wouldn't be able to finish more than a few bites before feeling sick. Maybe Nutella has changed, but so have you. Story 36. That ancient civilizations were way more advanced than we give them credit for. This line of thinking can go a few different ways, some more ridiculous than others, but I think as a baseline it is true. Story 37. I believe that if you separate the population of any country or city based on either religion, skin color, gender, age group, economic class, political affiliation, or eye color, you will find the same percentage of buttholes in each of those subgroups. Story 38. Small/lack of pockets in women's clothing is a thing so that fashion companies can sell more purses. Also, Brad Pitt just dates female clones of himself. Story 39. Random shuffle on Windows Media Player isn't actually random. Out of all the songs I have, I feel like I get a few specific ones at the beginning pretty much every time I load the playlist, while there are other songs that I even forgot I already have because they never play. I think the bigger revelation here is that someone is still using Windows Media Player regularly. Be right back. I need to call the police. Story 40. Most internet providers are throttling your service so you never reach the advertised speeds, except for speed-checking websites, which, whilst not normally reaching your advertised speeds, are quick enough that you just think it's just having a bad day. Story 41, that anything and everything we do on our mobile phones, even when you think you are being secretive by using invented usernames and arbitrary passwords, is being logged and electronically documented somewhere. Privacy is a thing of the past. Story 42, the management at my work have installed some sort of signal jamming Faraday cage around the toilet so the staff can't spend time in the toilet using the internet on their phones. Story 43, companies like 23andMe will eventually sell customer DNA to health insurance companies, and some folks will be charged higher rates if not kicked off their insurance. Story 44. Most of the long-winded top posts comments on here are written by professional or aspiring writers who actually do not have the first-hand experience they claim to. I think I agree on the people not having the first-hand experience they claim to have. Criminy, half the posts in most of these threads start with obligatory not blank, but the idea that they are professional writers? No. Story 45. The U.S. government runs VPN services to collect info on people who attempt to evade the NSA collection programs. Story 46. The U.S. government artificially deflates the price of cheap, high-calorie, low-nutrition foods because poor fat people don't overthrow governments. Poor hungry ones do. Story 47. Some employers make having a driver's license a requirement for jobs that clearly wouldn't need to involve driving because it's a legal way to discriminate against disabled applicants. Oh, crap. This is the kind of theory that is so awful and amoral that I'm kind of scared that it's true. Damn it. Story 48. All animals are much more intelligent than researchers give them credit for. I can see a thinking creature if I watch any of them long enough. Praying mantises especially. Story 49. More like 65%, but the Hawaiian missile false alarm was intended to see how a large group would respond knowing they are about to die. Story 50. The funeral home by my house is run by some sort of criminal organization. I always see the same gangster-looking guys hanging out in front of it smoking cigars and drinking drinks. Story 51. The timers at McDonald's to determine when the fries are done frying move at a rate of 2 units per second in order to make employees feel like they're moving too slow and to work faster. Story 52. The Denver airport has a doomsday bunker built beneath it for important people like the president, who was Obama at the time. Why in Denver? Was Obama known for frequenting the ski slopes? I suppose it is central to the country, but I don't know. Story 53. The fasten seatbelt sign could have been turned off a while ago technically, but the flight attendants don't want people in their way. Story 54. In the 90s, business leaders all bought stock in student loan companies and began demanding BAs for entry/middle-level jobs. Story 55. I'm actually the most attractive dude on earth, and the Tinder mods are just jealous, so they hide my profile from everyone. Story 56. That U.S. taxes are a giant scam, and there's an obscene amount of money that's not accounted for going into the pockets of a select group of buttholes. Story 57. The Truman Show is a documentary based on my life, and I know everything I write here will be broadcasted. They do not have my consent to keep me here. Don't you worry, OP. We see you and we're gonna get you out of there. You are a human being. Besides, I feel like the quality of the show really took a dive when you started spending all of your time on this site, so frankly, I think it's time it got canceled. Story 58. Not even Trump believes half the crazy crap Pence says. He just elected Pence as a VP so nobody would try assassinating him. Story 59. Mattress firm is a money laundering front. There are at least 4 within my small city's limits. No one buys that many mattresses. That's why mattresses are so expensive. Mattresses are like 95% profit. They don't have to sell many to make money. I used to work for a store that sold furniture, and the employee discount on mattresses was ridiculous. Story 60. When you look at a person completely unaware of you, they have the impulse to turn and look at you too. Story 61. That if someone else lived the exact life and circumstances that I did, they would have done a better job than me. Story 62. HQ is a scam, somehow. They're somehow mining data from us and they're cheating us somehow. Story 63. We're living in an alternate evil reality because someone time traveled and messed everything up. Look, I'm sorry, all right? God, can you people ever let this go? Story 64. This thread should be titled, Things That Will Give You Anxiety From Now On Every Time You Think About It. Story 65, Humpty Dumpty was not an egg. There's nothing to prove he was, but he did seem to have a shell. Story 66, fudgesicles and oatmeal cream pies are smaller than they were when I was growing up in the 1980s. Story 67, that I'd feel physically healthier if I could get my anxiety under control. Stress will frick up your body. Story 68, a lot of people walking around are just NPCs, non-playable characters. That is why they are programmed so easily. Story 69, facial features aren't unique. They can be repeated like lips is the same feature for 1 in every 200,000. That means there are more people out there with my perfect, luscious lips? No. This will not stand. There can be only one! Story 70, that the U.S. military possesses many technological advancements, but it is all kept secret so that other countries can't use them. Story 71, my father-in-law got up in the middle of the night and finished off the birthday cake. Story 72, that Jeff Bezos is laughing at all of us for not realizing that the Amazon arrow is really a peen. Story 73, Facebook's suggested friend algorithm is partly based on people that have stalked you. Story 74, Lindbergh killed his own child and then set up the whole kidnapping thing to cover his butt. Story 75, I second aliens. There are trillions of them. None have visited Earth, but they're out there. Story 76, I saw a witch in flight for a terrifying moment. I'm still haunted from this sight 17 years later. These theories keep coming faster and wilder, and frankly, I'm here for it. Aliens, witches, Jeff Bezos. I mean, come on, none of those things are real. Story 77, the government knows more about the Vegas shooting and covered it up. Story 78, that 80% of adults genuinely have no idea what they're doing and we're all just coasting. Story 79, that my girlfriend is never truly mad at me. She just likes to see how I handle her bullcrap. Story 80, Subway sandwiches used to taste good, and now they taste like bad meat and bad bread. Wrong. They always sucked, and I have never been in a Subway that smelled good. I've been in neutral-smelling Subways and awful-smelling ones, but never good. I've got a weird vendetta against Subway, and I'm not going to get into it here. Story 81, the spiritual realm. I've had some very strange experiences after meditation. Story 82, after 36 years, my dad is still on his way back from getting cigarettes. Story 83, that time is cyclical, that there are multiple dimensions and universes. Story 84, there's definitely life somewhere else in the universe, or even in our own galaxy. Story 85, Gatorade switched to curvy bottles to hide that they are 4 ounces smaller. Story 86, I believe that E equals MC squared, but I can't prove it because I'm too dumb. Story 87, that sandwiches taste 100 times better when cut diagonally. That is almost always true, except for BLTs, and I will die on this hill. You don't cut a BLT diagonally. I've done a lot of testing with BLTs. A lot! Argue in the comments if you like being wrong. Story 88, that there are mountain lions in Perry County, Pennsylvania. Story 89, cell phones are freaking up an entire generation of children. Story 90, the U.S. government conspiracies to have MLK assassinated. Story 91, gravity. I believe if I drop a thing, it will fall to the ground. Story 92, I think Maddie McCann's parents killed her. Story 93, there's a gremlin in my dryer that steals my socks. Story 94, giant creatures exist in the deepest parts of the sea. I mean, there is still so much we don't know about the ocean and the life inside it. This one feels like it could totally be real, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised. Story 95, the person I have a crush on has a crush on me. There is a way to prove that one, you know, or disprove. Good luck. Story 96, that there are single women in my area waiting to date me. Story 97, Subway was much higher quality 20 years ago. No, it wasn't. Story 98, YouTube dislikes on comments do nothing. Wrong, they do. They hurt my feelings. Story 99, everyone on this site is a bot except me. Story 100, there are an infinite number of universes. Story 101, I'm convinced Botox rots your brain. Story 102, that there is no afterlife. Story 103, religion is a scam. Story 104, North Dakota is a hoax. Story 105, aliens exist. Story 106, axioms. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.